the Desert Tiger Podcast.
Hi,
Hello, Russell.
how are you?
I am fantastic, and how are you doing today?
I'm good.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Always good. Always good to hear.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
No worries. Thanks so much for taking the time to join me today to take us a little bit behind this upcoming EP, humor, some of the tracks, and all of that fun stuff.
It's actually a full length.
It's a full length.
Yeah, it's a full length.
Oh, dang. Oh,
yeah.
dang. Okay. Okay, hype. That's even more exciting.
Yeah. It's like, it's like 9 tracks, so it's not as long as most full lengths. So it's like, maybe it'll be its own format. Like like if an EP and a full length had a baby, that's what it
Breaking new ground.
Track flex, but
doing a little bit of trailblazing then.
yeah.
Why not? Why not, right?
Revolutionary, so.
I mean, I see that in my research, but that's okay, right? I mean, it's about time some things got changed, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad we can agree. All right. So are you ready to jump on into it?
For sure. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, well, let's go. So this has been a process of building this full length, this LP, Humor. It's been 6 years that this has been, or not 6, 4 years.
Yeah.
that this has been building, sorry. 4 years that you've been building it. And the last few singles have been building towards this. And it tells some stories, a variety of stories from different perspectives. So what inspired this storytelling, this songwriting perspective?
Well, I think that the relationship between storytelling and songwriting is something that is ingrained in me from growing up in a place like PEI, where like songwriting and storytelling are the same thing. In sort of like, the history of like folk music and like how stories kind of get passed down through generations and through regions. I think that is a huge element of it. I think also like I kind of come from a family of musicians and writers and poets. So like that kind of like the idea of that all coming together in my work sort of just makes sense. Just like thinking about like who influenced me. And then I think that like I draw less on like personal experiences that come from like my lived experience in my songwriting, and more about like I tend to use like feelings or images or like characters I picture in my head, and sort of like I run with that, and I sort of I look at what that perspective might look like in the context of a song. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So with this variety of stories, this collection here, do some of these overlap? Or is it like a theme that's running through, or how does it all connect?
Well, it's kind of interesting because like technically I've been working on this for like 4-ish years. But I've also been working on a lot of other songs. Like I've written like over 100 songs in the past 4 years. And so when I was sort of like handpicking, like these songs were sort of like, some of them were in my live set as I was touring a bunch, and some of them I had just kind of been sitting on for a while. Some of them are like the very first songs I'd ever written. And I kind of like the 4-year process was less of a process of like active recording and working on it, and more like a process of collecting and choosing. And so I sort of like, when I chose these songs, I kind of chose them because they were sort of talking to each other in sometimes in story, but just also in terms of like musical arc. Like I think a lot about like the pace of an album and how my favorite albums sort of read like musical landscapes that sort of take you through a journey. And I wanted to make an album that had songs that people would love. And like maybe have a few songs that people like especially love, but I also wanted to make an album that you could actually just sit down and take it in its entirety. So yeah, I think, but yeah, then I think about like the earliest songs that I wrote, which are Go Now, which is the last song on the record, and Outside, which is in the middle of the record. And there's sort of like there's like an arc of messages that sort of go back to each other, certain musical themes that go back to each other, which is like, it's hard to explain if like people haven't heard it yet. Mm-hmm. But I think that's something that people can maybe look for when they listen to it.
Okay. So it wasn't something that you were trying to tell a motif or a certain idea. These were stories that had definitely fit within each other and you felt had a connection just based mm-hmm. on what they were about and just the way they were presented.
Yeah, and I think that like I made I intentionally sort of wrote the lyrics to be somewhat open-ended because I think that it's way cooler when people can like when the listener can derive their own meaning from something. I don't really like to, create art that's like, this is what this is and the end. So like, for example, like the track, which is already out, Hello Stranger, it was released last year. That's going to be on the album. And like that to me was coming from like an existential like dance song. But a lot of people thought it was like a breakup song, which I thought was hilarious. Cause like, it wasn't about anybody. It was more about like, this idea of like recognizing yourself after like a long time of not. Because Hello Stranger is like a thing that you never say that to an actual stranger, right? Like that's, yeah. So I think there's a lot of that situation happening in my songwriting too, where I'm really playing with like what sort of phrases and perspectives, or like how certain phrases influence the perspective of a song. Yeah.
Okay. No, I like that. It's always amazing to see how people interpret things because I can definitely see how someone would think it'd be about a breakup because when you lose someone, you suddenly become distant from them and it's someone you knew for so long
totally
is suddenly gone. And then still from the way you're saying, from like looking inward and finding yourself, it takes a long time sometimes for us as individuals, as people, to find out exactly who we want to be. We're told from like a young age, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, we don't even know. Like, I'm 30 and I'm still figuring it out, right?
Yeah. Or we figure it out and then we go away and then we come back and then we go away. It's, mm-hmm. It's never a linear journey.
Exactly. Always learn and grow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you mentioned that it wasn't exactly a recording of this album from right off the bat, but the first single from this album dropped in 2018, at the end of 2018, with Cost of Living. So what was the recording process of this album like? How long did it actually take? And where was it recorded?
Well, the songs were recorded. Every song was sort of recorded in a different place. I did, so like in 2018 when I released Cost of Living, that was the first single that I had released on the label I'm currently on, Lisbon Lux Records. It was shortly after I had signed like management recording publishing deal with them. And so they wanted me, they had like expressed in our meetings, we'd kind of been meeting up for like 4 months, that they wanted to work towards like a full album release. And we had agreed that it would be smart to sort of slowly release singles over time to sort of build up an audience, so that like the album might like be able to have a little bit more of a splash when it does drop. That's the hope. I mean, you never know how it's gonna work out. Could be a flop. I don't know. But yeah, so I was still like living full time in PEI. and I just recorded Cost of Living. I had like the track already recorded at home, and I did a few vocal takes just at home into like a handheld mic, no bells or whistles. It's a really simple track. There's like a beat and a bass line and a synth and my voice, and that's it. And then I sent it to Julien, who's my manager, and he just like mixed it, cleaned it up, and then we got ready to release it. And that's actually how the rest of the album has been recorded. I like went like I do all the initial production, and then Julien cleans it up, mixes it. And then I went in to record 4 vocals in studio with an engineer, which was really helpful because like recording your own vocals is annoying. But yeah, like Hello Stranger, Light of the Moon, and Cost of Living, which are the 3 singles that are currently out, I just recorded at home. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like I'm the kind of person like I don't need a studio. I don't need people around me necessarily. Like I'll just kind of work with what's there. But if there is a studio, if there is like stuff that I can use, I'm gonna want to use it. Yeah. But it's like, yeah, it's also like when we started like really putting the album together, that was like when the pandemic hit. So I was sort of like just cleaning it up in my bedroom, like on my laptop, like really kind of DIY. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we talked about the process of building it. Let's jump into some of these stories now. Of course, let's start off with Cost of Living. Let's take us a little bit behind this experience, this adventure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cost of Living was something I sort of like a lot of my songs on this album I had sort of developed live on tour. So I would often have like the backing track ready, and then I would just sort of improvise lyrics over it and just kind of go with what stuck night after night, which was like really intense and like not always graceful. But Cost of Living was one of those songs. And then so I'd kind of been like playing with it. And then like one time I ended up rehearsing it, and it all just came at once, and I wrote it all down. And yeah, after I had like kind of discovered what the meaning of the song was, I realized it was sort of about this, like what I was chewing on at the time was this idea of like, I just watched, yeah. Okay. So it was like this idea of understanding what it's like to look at like dark parts of yourself and want to escape from them. And like how common that is, and how that's a question that often goes so unanswered, but it's like that is like a survival mode. So like this cost of living thing was sort of like another double entendre. Like people thought I was talking about the housing crisis. But yeah, the cost of living is like, is this what I need to do to survive? Like, could this be the cost of living? And then like to forget without forgiving, like this idea of like numbing out and like not necessarily facing your problems head on, but being so acutely aware of them all the time at the same time. So I was kind of just going into that, delving into like that character a little bit of like, what is it like to like not trust anything anyone says, and like, you know, yeah, be constantly looking for this like strand of hope, but also like not really being able to grasp it because you're so like internally messed up. So yeah, that was what that song was really about, which is like brutal. It's like a brutal topic, but people seem to like it. So
well, it is a very brutal topic, but we as human beings can definitely be our own harshest critics, and we always look at other people and we compare ourselves to other people and we're like, oh, wow, these other people have so much going on for themselves. And we don't even think that what demons is this other person going through, and we pound and we pack everything on top of ourselves.
Yeah, it's so funny, and like everybody's usually doing that. But also like some people aren't. Some people just aren't doing that, which I think is fascinating.
It's true. And then some of them like go on without it for a long time and then suddenly it hits them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The time comes for everyone.
The human experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just it's not everybody's as alone as we all think that we might be inside of those hard moments, which is the important thing to remember.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this sort of like this question is sort of like it feels universal in a lot of ways. I think a lot of people sort of like have this idea of like, is this it? Is like what I'm doing working? Really working for me?
How did I come to stay? This isn't what I'm used to. What words can I unsay when they all came from you? And I know I'm not the only one who had to run away. But I've tamed myself to know what I shouldn't do. Finding home. Finding home. And where does this road begin? 'Cause I've been wandering too far for too long. Can't get air with my breath breaking. I can feel my chest giving, still my heart's holding on. And I don't wanna talk about love, 'cause the one I'm dreaming of is somehow here and gone. Finding home. Finding home. Ooh. Where does this road begin? 'Cause I've been wandering too far, for far too long. And you're gonna do me in. Where have you been? Where will I find you trying to hold on? Finding home. Finding
All right. Well, let's dive into another one of the adventures, another one of the stories that is coming with humor here. Let's dive into the most recent single that is released on February 3rd, which is before or after when we do this recording, but before we release this interview. So,
January
yes.
30th now.
Yes, it's January 30th for the record. So we're talking about the song that is already out before it comes out.
But
so
it's not out now, but for the listener, it's now out.
Yes, and they should go and stream it. So let's dive into Home.
Yeah. Home is like, it's another song that was like created this similar way to Cost of Living. Like I just kept like improvising it, and it would often like open my sets. It was like sort of like this big, loud, slow, but like epic feeling production. And it's about this question of like what home is and what it looks like and what the search for home looks like, and not necessarily like home being like your house or like where you live, but like the home of like being in your body, or like being in, you know, being comfortable with who you are, or finding your people, or like it's very open-ended that way. And so I like, there's like kind of themes of questioning and arrival. Like, how did I get on this journey? Like I've been saying that like if this album was like a film, like Home would be like the opening scene. Like it would be like the protagonist entering into like the new planet where like a billion things explode at once and they're like, whoa, and then the journey begins. Like that's kind of what Home feels like to me. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what's up. And it's this idea of like, I think there's also this feeling of like maybe not looking, like there's a line in Home where it's like, I don't want to talk about love because the one I'm dreaming of is somehow here and gone. Like it's this idea of like finding, not necessarily love, but like sort of like a searching for the self in like wanting to be secure in that before like branching off into other directions of relationships, which I think is like also really common. So yeah, that's sort of like my elevator pitch to that song.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's the idea of home is something that not everybody exactly knows, and definitely a lot of people are searching for. And I hope that a lot of those people find that idea, because it's everybody deserves to have that security, that comfort, that ability to, you know, go and find that peace of mind, whatever it is that happens to bring it.
Yeah. Like it's sort of, I think it examines home as like the idea of home as like something that that you have with you, as opposed to something that you find. Like still trying to find it.
Absolutely. And that's also, well, they say that in order to love, you have to be able to love yourself, which it's not 100% true, because you're still capable of loving, even if you are damaged.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's so damaged. Everybody's just so profoundly damaged. Like, and yet, you know, love exists.
And it's in you. Even if you are damaged, that's a part of you, and that's helped create you too. And you, one day, hopefully, you are capable of loving that piece of yourself as well.
Yeah, I'm a fan of loving the damaged. I think it's a good way to be.
Agreed. Hey, it's if it wasn't there, you wouldn't have come to the exact moment you're in right now. And sometimes that moment is, those rough moments, they're tough, but they have to happen for you to appreciate the beauty.
Totally.
Awesome. All right. So you mentioned about how this piecing together started to come together in 2020. And of course, 2020 was an odd year where a lot of musicians had to adapt, had to change things up. So how had
the word you're going to use, odd. It was an odd year.
Yes. Okay. There's a lot of words that could be used.
Catastrophic. No.
But of course, it's so how was Humor? How have the most recent singles? Has everything had to adapt through this? How have you adapted?
Well, I mean, like I was touring, like pre-pandemic, I was touring for like a couple of years straight, like just constantly. And it was fun, and I got really good at playing shows, and like my live act got really tight, which was awesome. But that's too much touring. That's like so much touring. So I was actually, when the pandemic hit, I was really grateful for just the like regular sleep schedule that I got all of a sudden, and like, oh, I don't have to be prepping for a show. So now I can actually like sit down and focus on finishing the album. So that was nice. I also, but like, you know, for the first couple of months of the pandemic, I didn't really do any work. I was like, this is because I think I was just feeling the collective, like, what even? And I was seeing all these musicians like pumping out stuff like crazy and doing live streams. And I was like, you're insane. Not really, but like, I just didn't understand like how people could like, you know, adapt so quickly to like something so that felt so big, that is so big. So yeah, but then like around the summertime, spring, summer, I started to like actually see we were starting to get into like mixing the album. So the songs were like, for the most part, written and recorded, and like things were starting to feel finished, which felt cool. Or like I could see what the album was turning into. But I wasn't able to play live shows, so my income was compromised, which was tough. And I don't think enough artists talk about being poor, but like it's a thing. And so that definitely affected my work. But then, yeah, I was getting into really just sort of looking at my work from the outside in, as opposed to like 4 years of kind of trying to figure out what it was while I was like so in the throes of it, which I think is like describing surgery while you're having surgery. Like there's just like no way you can have any perspective on it. Someone else use that term to describe the pandemic. I forget who, but that like using surgery, like describing surgery while you're having surgery has been like a phrase that I just keeps coming up in neon lights in my head, because it's so like we don't know how this time is going to like affect us in total. So yeah, but it helped me like slow down and like actually look at the work in short. But it was also like not all like butterflies and productivity. It was like a really intense time for me, as it was for a lot of people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And anyone who's watching this, it's another reason to go out and support the artists that you love, because they are having a hard time right now not being able to tour, see your faces live, and give you hugs and all those beautiful things. So go out, stream their music, buy their stuff.
Yeah.
Even just share their stuff. Even just share their stuff with your friends.
Yeah. We love a good like.
Oh, good thumbs up. Good thumbs up or a heart. Oof.
Yeah.
Boost serotonin a little bit.
Yeah. Another like, another day.
All right. So now that we're into 2021, now that Humor is going to be releasing, what are the rest of the plans for the release? Is there going to be any live stream performances, any recorded performances? Is there going to be any music videos, any fun stuff like that?
Yeah, okay, so I'm currently in Montreal at this moment, which is in pretty intense lockdown. They're having a curfew, which is problematic. But for homeless people, for houseless people. Like right now we've put a halt on like music videos and live videos just until things kind of simmer down, because like hospitals were reaching like critical triage points, and I was like, I can't do this in good conscience right now. So we're like looking into some COVID safer rehearsal spaces to do some live videos with a 5-piece band. And then some music videos as well. Later in February, I believe, is when we'll be shooting. And yeah, they'll kind of be like trickling out after the release of Humor, which I love. I don't think it should all happen in 1 week. I know that's like bad PR or whatever, but I think it's like cooler to just have like sort of a constant stream of stuff over like a slow burn than to just be like, here's all my shit.
Well, yeah, and it shouldn't just be a giant blip in time either, where it's just like, and here's a giant dump, consume it all at once, or it's like, here, appreciate these moments.
Yeah, and I think that's like the problem I have with like the pop music cycle of releasing stuff is like everybody just wants like all of it all the time, and I've just like I released 3 singles over the past like 2-3 years. Like I've been working on this album for 4 years. Like I'm really just like not in a rush. Like I would rather like I'm a big fan of like quality over quantity. You know, just like we've been making it really good.
Just wait, we'll get there. You'll enjoy it. It'll be good. Yeah, just wait.
Yeah. Delayed gratification.
Mm-hmm.
COVID, you can wait. Sorry, too soon.
It's all right. It's all right. All right. All right, Russell. So before I ask my last question, where can the ambush, the listeners of the podcast, find out more about Russell Louder?
I'm on all the streaming platforms. I'm on the Twitter. I'm on the Gram, the Instagram. I'm on the Facebook. I'm on no, I deleted my LinkedIn because I didn't understand it. That is it. That's probably not it. I also think I have a website. No, I do have a website, but it's on the Lisbon Lux website, lisbonluxrecords.com. That's where people can find me.
All right. Awesome. And they definitely should go ahead and do that. Stay connected, keep up to date with when you release those music videos, those live streams, all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, Russell, last question. So we've talked about the last 4 years, how you have crafted humor, how you've been building this process. What I want to know, though, now is how has this journey either helped you grow or taught you about yourself?
Well, I think that like songwriting is one of those things where I think I learn like it's because for me it's more of a process of storytelling and like thinking about what characters are or who characters are and where they're coming from. It's like an ultimate empathy exercise. So I think just like that as like being a part of my work is, I've gained like a ton of insight and compassion for myself and others. That's huge. I think I've also just gotten better as a producer and as a songwriter. It just like in the objective crafting of, or like, you know, as objective as you can be about songwriting, which is a subjective thing. But so there's that. And then I think I just like gotten really hip to what I want as like a business person. But that also I think trickles down into my personal life. Like I'm just like very like, I have a clear vision of like what I'm looking for in business relationships, in like the kind of reach I want to have, in the kind of work I want to put out. I feel like I have more control over all of those things now. So that's cool. Like I think I just feel more like generally grounded right now as opposed to like 4 years ago when I started this project.
Yeah, well, 4 years is a long time to learn, grow, and come to peace with a lot of things.
Yeah, it is.
All right, Russell. I want to thank you so very much for taking the time to join me here today.
Thanks for having me. It's a lovely, lovely time.